Elementos is a simple game of abstract strategy. I guess it's a little bit of rock, paper, scissors meets checkers. It is for 2 players only, very simple, very linear, entirely made of wood, and it comes in a case that also doubles as its own board. You open the case/board, you'll find the instructions inside in several languages, and then you have these game pieces made of wood. Each player will take a set of these circular pieces, of these discs, and a magic wand. How cute is that? Harry Potter fans all over rejoice. You get to play with magic wands. This is how the board looks. It's a simple grid of spaces. Each player at the beginning of the game during setup will place the discs in the 9 spaces on one of the 2 sides of the board. The discs are double-sided, and I suggest that you play the normal version of the game, in which players are allowed to peek at their own game pieces, and so they know what they have on the other side, which is important. There is, the rules say, an advanced version in which you just have to remember what you have on the other side. I don't know that I like that all that much. So this is how you set up the game. Then you place the wand in the central disc of your area. And this is pretty much how the game looks like. A setup, of course, you may set it up differently, but this is the general idea. The point, in order to win the game, you will need to bring your wand to the opposite side of the board. So that side for this player, and for this player, it is this side. Your wand reaches one of those spaces, you win the game immediately. Now, during your turn, you can do one of several things. You can take a disc and flip it to the other side, and that would be your turn, and the opponent takes another action. Basically, players alternate taking an action each. Or you can move one of your pieces that does not have a wand. To move a piece, you can move it orthogonally forward, orthogonally laterally. You can even move a piece diagonally, but you can never move back. So you always have to move either orthogonally or closer to the opposite side. If you are next to a game piece that you can eat, well, then you can move into that space and remove it. This is at least how I interpret the rules, which are not entirely clear on that point, but this is how the game makes sense. I played it, I liked it that way, so we're gonna play it that way. And here we have the rock, paper, scissors idea. That is, the wood will absorb or stop water. So wood beats water, fire beats wood, and if you're here, suppose we're here, then water beats fire. Oh, look at that. That was really heavy losses on both sides, and it may happen. And that's why maybe you want to get next to an opponent, and then you want to turn to the other side. Peekaboo, and the opponent's like, oh, shoot. Boom, surprise. And this is an interesting situation, because that's a situation now water wins against fire. Well, then we're going to do that. And we're kind of like in a situation of stasis until maybe you do this. And you see the problem here. Even the rules simply say, it may be that the game reaches an equilibrium which players will keep flipping the same 2 discs. The solution proposed in the rules is like, don't do that. Stop doing that. Well, that's a little too vague and generic. How many times do you do that? I see a situation in which the first player that stops doing that will simply lose a game piece, which can be heavy when you only have 9. So this is actually one of the loopholes in the design. But I have to say, although it worries me, and sometimes we do reach this situation, ultimately wasn't that big of a deal. In most cases, when you reach a situation, I say, hey, you know what? Okay, I'll stop doing that, and maybe I'll do something different. You know, instead of flipping, yeah, of course. Come and eat that one, and then I'll remove your piece in return. So solutions can be found. Back to us. You move a normal piece. Also, another thing important about removing enemy pieces, the piece with the wand is immortal, cannot be touched. Now, you can flip a disc, you can move it, this doesn't have the wand, or you can move the wand during your turn. You can move the wand together with the piece it is with, in which case it can only move by 1 space forward, straight forward only, nothing fancy. Or you can move the wand alone, not the piece, only the wand alone, in which case it jumps into an adjacent piece, which needs to be pretty much the same direction as game pieces would move normally, which needs to be adjacent orthogonally, or forward orthogonally, or diagonally, cannot move backward. This could be an interesting situation. Actually, suppose this is the situation, you're gonna do that, then I just jump here, and now this game piece cannot be eaten. Now, the rules are not clear if the game piece with the wand can actually be flipped. We ruled that it can, and we played it that way, and it works, so that's how we play. Bring your wand to the opposite edge of the board from the side opposite to the side where you started, and you win the game. And this is how you play Elementos. Elementos is a game that looks great from the point of view of production, and it plays okay. It's not a bad game. I wasn't incredibly taken by it, but I didn't hate it either. For a lunch break, something that I actually played during lunch break, it was okay. It was fun. I was entertained, and so was the player that played it with me. It's a variant that combines a little bit of checkers and rock, paper, scissors, and what you have is something that somehow feels at the same time a little too complicated and a little too simple. A little too simple because of the very few options that you have. The battlefield is so claustrophobic, and so many times is I'm gonna eat you and you're gonna eat me, and I'm gonna eat you and you're gonna eat me. It just feels there isn't much that you can do. You don't have the possibility for a master stroke that will allow you to swing things around, and you will be able to perform the virtuoso maneuver. It just feels like, again, that simplicity that you have in checkers, which works. At the same time, you have the level of complication, I don't know if complexity is the right word, that you have from, taking into account when to flip things. That doesn't feel like it really alters the substance of things. I guess, I don't know if it's gimmicky, I don't know if it's like it gives me the illusion of strategy, the illusion of meaningful choice. It can be interesting, it can be fun when I move next to you and you flip it and I flip again, and then you move something else and you prepare a trap there. But in many cases, I don't know that it really adds all that much. What it does, the flipping of the things and the interaction of the elements, is to create the danger of equilibrium, which in a game design is always a flaw. A game should always move forward, should never just stagnate and move like a dog trying to chase its own tail. And there isn't really a way of solving that. Even the rule book acknowledges that. Again, if you reach that state, I don't know, maybe you play rock, paper, scissors to see who is gonna have to move or not move, who is gonna break the equilibrium and get in a disadvantageous position, getting their piece removed and captured because of that. I don't know. It's not a big deal, if nothing else, because it's not like, well, I played this incredible game, very immersive for 3 hours, and now it has been ruined by the fact that we reach equilibrium. We were playing for 5-6 minutes, and now we're like, oh, look at this. I don't know. Let's figure something out. Okay, you do it this time. I take a loss, and next time maybe we'll do it differently. It's a game that is so simple. It really feels like a filler with not many pretenses. It's simple, it's linear, it's not particularly deep. It is a little bit unforgiving, like it often happens, again, with games where we capture a lot of each other's game pieces, and then it gets to a point where I realize that I'm almost there and you'll make it one move before I do. It's not just that it's anticlimactic because of that, but it also feels a bit random, because to really get the sense of like, well, in 10 moves I'll make it, and I need to prevent things in such a way that it'll take me upon at least 11. You shouldn't even do that kind of thinking with a game of this kind. Or maybe you should. I know that I don't, and as a result, the game sometimes, at the end, after we have the brutal encounter in the middle of the board and we remove a lot of each other's game pieces, it almost feels like it's a bit random, like I myself count, oh, look at this, I'm gonna make it in 2 moves and it was gonna take you 3. or vice versa. There is no randomness in it, but because for a game of this kind, it feels like calculating all the possibilities is too much work for what a game is. It feels like the result sometimes is kind of like random. Oh, look, this is what happened. And again, maybe you play it again in a lunch break, you'll be able to play 3 or 4 times. So depends on how long your lunch break is or how long it's going to take you. But definitely the short game, and if one game doesn't go the way you expected or it reaches an equilibrium, which is annoying, then you play it again. Again, in general, as you can see, I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it either. Somewhere in between. If I have a lunch break and you're around and I have it in my backpack and I don't do anything else, then this is better than not playing anything. But there are also a lot of other fillers or other lunch break games that are just tighter, are just a little... have just a little more depth and sometimes we know more complex rules than this one. I don't really see Elementos as being a strong contender even in the category of fillers. It's not a bad game, but that's pretty much all that it is.